system approaching perfection.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast if it means I'm able to further.
All right, guys, this is Danny at the Crypto Show, and I'm here with Dustin Byington, who's been involved in a lot of things. I remember you from Tendermint and then Wanchain, and I guess you're moving on from there. But tell me more about. I never really did get to find out about what you did with Wanchain.
Oh, well, yeah, to be clear, I'm not moving on from Wanchain. I'm still very much involved
You're
in the
moving
project.
up with Wanchain.
Well, it's just a little different, moving a different level of the stack. As president of the foundation, I was really working on the low-level protocol, but then also started working more and more on scaling the ecosystem. And the more I thought about it, one of the things we announced was WAN Lab, which was more of a traditional accelerator, and we announced 3 projects in Dubai. We were all fairly well received by the market. There's a lot of excitement around them. But I've just been in the back of my head, I've just been thinking, how do we grow the ecosystem faster and faster and faster? How do we scale? Because a lot of people talk about scale in the blockchain world, but usually it's the right word but the wrong question. They're talking about scaling, transactions per second and things like that. And while that's important, a lot of this technology is ultimately a commodity that lives on GitHub, that once certain people figure out scale, other people's going to adopt it. The thing you can't cut and copy are these ecosystems that have network effects. And so I've been really passionate about growing that ecosystem within Wanchain. And so stepping down as president of Wanchain is just so I could focus more on that endeavor.
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning.
Yeah.
What is Wanchain and why do I need it?
So Wanchain solves some of the fundamental problems in the industry around interoperability. So currently the blockchain industry looks like the days of the intranet before the global internet was created.
Right.
So all these blockchains don't really talk to each other very effectively. So Wanchain is a very sort of pragmatic solution to connecting all the world's blockchains. And it does it by using something called, it's kind of like, imagine it's like building a bridge to all these blockchains that the digital assets can move across.
Kind of an atomic swap.
It's a more advanced kind of, a more dynamic version of atomic swap, yeah. Like you wouldn't want to build like the whole decentralized exchange, for example, on the back of atomic swap. But if you can move an asset from one ledger to our ledger to, say, from ETH, the Ethereum ledger to Wanchain's ledger, and then once you get that asset onto Wanchain's ledger, it's very easy to program things like decentralized exchanges or lending platforms. It ends up looking, we built off the Ethereum code base, so imagine like Ethereum with all the protocol tokens instead of just the ERC20s.
Okay. Is there an element to something similar to Monero in it? You're using ring signatures, or what's the deal with that?
Yep, so we were the first protocol. What we launched in Miami was the first smart contract platform with ring signatures. And so the 3 pillars of Wanchain, so you have like smart contract functionality, which we lean on, stand on the shoulders of Ethereum for that. And then privacy, we think that's sort of like a fundamental building block.
Right.
It's so important that, I know Dash cares a lot about it as well. It's so important, I think it's just going to be ubiquitous eventually. I think every chain is going to have some privacy component. It's just not sufficient that we're going to walk around all day with like effectively like t-shirts that say how much money we have or who we've done financial dealings with. That's sort of like dystopian future in our world.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're actually the first smart contract platform to integrate with ring signatures. There were some subtleties because like Monero does it with UTXO, but with integrating into Ethereum, you had to think about stuff like how do you pay for gas without leaking your identity, and so we did some interesting things with that.
And there's so many platforms with smart contracts. I mean, everybody's got a smart contract now. Can you just name something that's actually being used as a smart contract? Or we have 1,000 smart contracts, but do we have any actual smart contracts being used anywhere?
I think end user adoption has been really hard. And part of that is because like every time you launch a new smart contract platform, the thing you don't realize is how many like developer tools are needed to actually create vibrant, useful applications. And so it's really challenging for developers on brand new blockchains to be able to build things that are useful. One of the ways we get around that is because we're built on the Ethereum stack, we kind of stand on their shoulders again for a lot of their developer tooling, and even things like I call it stack exchange network effects.
Right.
Like if so many people have built on the ETH stack that they've logged all these bugs into Stack Exchange. So as a new developer, when you come across those bugs, you can find solutions. Whereas if you're on a brand new blockchain, you might be the first person that ever encountered those bugs. So I still think I haven't given up on smart contracts being actually useful for a really wide number of problems. I just think there's more infrastructure that's needed to actually develop these things than most people realize.
Maybe they need to like develop some sort of a foundation or something where all of the different platforms who are developing smart contracts can come together and make a product and just give it to people to use, to actually push adoption forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what about your funding? I mean, how are you guys doing anything like Dash or like that as far as funding? Do you have a DAO, or how does that?
The new entity, we'll be raising capital in various ways for the new entity. We're kind of thinking through that. It's still kind of in stealth mode right now, so we haven't started capital raise for it. It kind of depends a little bit on which direction.
It seems like the only funding models these days, either there's a DAO treasury or it's an ICO.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like the DAO is just more trustworthy or more moral than ICO. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't see too big of a problem with ICO if it's managed properly and you have proper disclosures. And I think there's a lot of landmines going through the ICO process.
There's just like so much BS that gets attached to ICO that it gives ICO a bad name, and there are legitimate, really good things that you can do with ICOs. But it's just it's so easy for anybody to get involved with it. Like, I kind of think that the DAO seems to be a better idea for me, because you have something that's already established, and then you're building the treasury within that. I mean, what do you think on that?
Well, I think DAOs are good for like projects that lean on like decentralized governance very heavily. There's some things you got to be mindful with what you decentralize. It's not always the case that governance is something part of your stack you might want, kind of like
I don't need a blockchain to rake my garden, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it just depends on the different model, and it's cool. It's really great to see all the experimentation that happens in space at the governance level, at the protocol level, at the application level, and all the mix in between.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. So, what's the newest thing that you got? I mean, do you have any high hopes for something that you've got in the works that you?
There's this new project's moving fast. We got a big team flying into Austin next week to hammer on it. We don't move slow, so
I see you guys everywhere. So.
I think speed is like vital. This whole industry, a lot of being here at Voice and Exit, we're seeing these convergence of all these technologies, and I think one of the things that sort of prevented singularity from happening is like having really good funding vehicles. And so that was my idea previously. Is like, okay, well, we need more funding to be able to get these all these sort of exponential curves converging on themselves. And I think that actually the other thing that I've been thinking more about, it's not just funding. It's not enough to just throw money at these problems. Especially in the blockchain space, there's a lot of work that needs to go into these projects. And so how can you actually really scale that work? And so again, so you can just scale fast, speed up. So I'm just always thinking about speed.
And the other issue is finding people who are actually qualified to code within the blockchain, because I guess Jason King is doing something about that now, but he should have done it. Should have already done that. But are you guys contributing to Academy in any way? Or
Mo Levin is a good buddy of mine. So I was chatting with Mo a little bit over the weekend. I was out at Consensus New York. So I think that's a great project. And I think I agree. I think that that developers could easily be a bottleneck. There's also legal's a big bottleneck. So there's bottlenecks all over the place that I'm looking to try to kind of pick out.
Well, luckily it's decentralized, so you can just go to any country and start it up, and then it can be everywhere.
We'll see what the U.S. government thinks about that. Hopefully, but we'll see.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. Let me know how people could get involved.
Sure. Right now, we haven't released any domain or anything for the new entity, but you just follow me on Twitter at Dustin_Byington, B as in boy, Yington, and I'll be announcing stuff on there.
Awesome. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Cheers.